Alrighty, welcome to episode 15 of Rooting for Laundry. I'm your host, Johnny McDonald. You can follow us on IG and Twitter at Root for Laundry. It's where you see the ticker. Today, we're going to cover the Indiana Pacers. My favorite team, the Knicks, they were in Pacers, big rivalry in the 90s and 2000s. Pacers, one of the greatest shooters of all time. And today I got a big fan, good friend of mine, comedian. You could buy his album on Vimeo. It was shot at the Apollo, and it's very funny. So if you buy it, you're gonna like it. Give it up for my man, Phil Hunt. Phil, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Just struggling with a tripod at the moment, but I'm sure.
Hey, it's all right, man.
I kicked the table and it came loose, so.
Oh, nice.
Beauty of going live, right?
Yeah, that's it, man. It's make or break, man. And we're all producers. We have nobody to help us, so we got no interns.
That's the beauty of going live. You kick one table and there's your whole shot.
Yeah.
Spike Lee doesn't have to deal with this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely doesn't. So
that's your guy. That's from coming in the exit.
Yeah. That's when a couple of like before the season ended, right? When he was banned from the exit at the guard. Yeah, he was raising all types of hell.
Which was great because it was like he was like, I'm never coming to another Knicks game. And then there were no more Knicks games.
Your word. He called. He said, "I'll show you guys," and then COVID happened, and that was it.
I'm not accusing Spike Lee of anything. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's a little suspicious. I get that.
I'm going to end the NBA for everybody this year.
And then put out what's that movie, The Five Bloods, and then have you stay home and watch The Five Bloods. So here's COVID for you.
I'm surprised he put no Knicks paraphernalia in The Five Bloods.
Yeah, I guess he was really upset. He was like, "I'm not. Nope. I got nothing to do." But he'll be back. They all say that. 1 minute they're like, ban the Knicks, and then like, nah. If a good team comes in, he'll be back.
It's like watching a car wreck. You gotta watch a car wreck.
Absolutely.
Everything's moving so slow, and you're like, "What is going on?" And you get up close, and you're like, "Everybody is looking at this car." Like we've never seen a flipped over car before.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Phil, you were born and raised in Indianapolis. So, like, you rolled for the Pacers. Like, that was
born in Kansas, which is another great basketball state. I mean, collegiately.
Absolutely, yeah, with the Jayhawks.
But I grew up in Indianapolis most of the time, so that was where my parents are from. Indianapolis, so Pacers is my team. It sucks we're not like New York, where you guys are spoiled. You get to choose the good or the bad. You get to choose between evil and good. With the Jets and the Giants, and then now even you got the Knicks and the Nets. But back then,
if you consider that, Yeah, most Nets, because the Nets like played in Jersey all that time, so a lot of people really didn't. Even when the Nets were good for that period of time, they didn't really jump over. And even when they came to Brooklyn, it's kind of like, okay.
That ain't the real Brooklyn.
Yeah, exactly. And the Barclays Center sucks. Like I'm personally not a fan of it. Even I tried to be. I was like, nah, I just don't like the Barclays Center.
They're kind of a nondescript team, to where it's like what they call a man without a country. I guess. Almost.
Yeah, that much. And the history, the groundwork is already laid for Knicks fans. So it's not like, it's not like I don't hate the Nets per se, but it's just like they don't move the needle, basically. It's
they don't bring about any particular feelings. Now, they got Durant and they got Kyrie now. So when they finally play together, I would
let's see,
a whole generation of kids that identifies as Nets fans.
Yeah, I think they just have to build a fan base. And I think, like, if Spike Lee jumps over there, I kind of don't blame him.
I wouldn't blame him. I mean, their jerseys are black. Everything Spike's ever represented is real.
And Brooklyn, yeah,
that fits him anymore. So
yeah, that's so true. So, all right, so you've been a Pacers fan. What was your first like experience and memories?
I think my
Uh,
first experience was like just going to my uncle's house and stuff, and my aunt, and like they're watching the game. And I mean, that was like 94, 95. The first series I truly remember was us versus Orlando when Michael Jordan was retired.
okay,
I think we took them to like 6 games. And then, I mean, Shaq and Penny were just too much.
that was the first year, and then Magic went to the finals that year.
Yeah, the
So,
Magic going to the finals.
yeah,
And, you know, Indiana, the feeling was, well, Michael Jordan isn't here this year. We'll definitely take it. So,
yeah. But you probably got to see. I'm pretty sure you saw that ESPN documentary, the Reggie Miller versus the Knicks. So that probably
yeah, I saw it. It was a while ago, but I mean, all of that just brings back memories for me. It's a little PTSD.
yeah, because it shows Reggie and Spike Lee having that classic exchange about him like doing the choke when he scored
Yeah,
25
they
in
were
the
made for
fourth
each
quarter.
other. What
Yeah,
was
so
it?
that
6 points in what? 15 seconds he scored.
well, I didn't get to that yet, but the 25 points. And then the year after in 1995, that was at the end of game one where the Knicks were up. And I remember listening. Well, I remember like recording that because I was at church at the time. It was like a Sunday afternoon game. So I came home and then my father blasted the radio and said, "Oh, it said the Knicks lost." And I'm like, "Well, damn!" But I'm gonna watch it anyway. So while I'm watching it, and the Knicks have a huge lead, I'm like, "There's no way." I was like, "They had to mess up. The radio had to mess up. There's no way they lost." And then it shows the legend 8 points in 9 seconds. So you were watching that game live
I
or you
didn't
were
watch that game. I was a little
live?
younger,
Legally
you
younger,
know,
yeah.
so I
So
was probably
yeah,
somewhere enjoying some cartoons or something.
yeah.
But I do remember seeing obviously the clips, the highlights, hearing people talk about it the next day and things like that at school. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, Reggie's fucking awesome. Which, by the way, was just like the dichotomy of Reggie Miller of like, as a kid growing up in Indiana, you met him because he'd come to your school, but he was a notorious asshole.
I can imagine.
Sign autographs or anything like that. Now, mind you, I get it as an adult of just like, oh, well, he didn't fucking want to be bothered, but wasn't he like dating a model at the time?
I'm not 100% sure, but it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, you're an NBA player.
Why or how a model got to Indiana, but
Yeah.
he was there, you know.
Yeah.
It must not be going too well for her.
Yeah. And Reggie Miller, not the most attractive person in the world.
The planners is always the joke, right? That he looks like.
Yeah, or Quark from Star Trek, Next Generation. If you see him,
but that's what made Reggie so great. Is Reggie was not your prototypical superstar. I mean, Reggie was scrawny, like he wasn't muscular like Michael Jordan. He was scrawny. He was kind of an everyman, and I think that's what attracted people outside of the state, like people that like villains, like the guy that roots for Joker in the Batman movies was kind of Reggie's appeal, you know, the underdog.
And not to mention, like in that documentary, Knicks versus Reggie Miller, they covered the draft when Reggie was drafted, and they supposed to draft. They were trying to draft Steve Alford. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I'm glad.
And the fans had a fit, and you know, Reggie probably would have been legendary somewhere else, or yeah, who knows?
Well, yeah, it's always interesting because if you switch organizations, then who knows? I mean. But yeah, I'm glad we drafted. I mean, he's from California, so there's always a little bit of guilt in rooting for him because everybody wanted Steve Alford. Now, mind you, Indianapolis is very diverse, but Indiana is a red state.
Yeah, it's a red state. Yeah, I remember watching. Yeah.
You know, Steve Alford, he played for Bobby Knight, so that wasn't like IU basketball. That was when it was at its peak. So, the fans, they were clamoring for Steve Alford. And thank God we didn't take him. I think he wound up averaging like, what, 4 points per game.
He didn't stay, he didn't really stay long in the league.
Out of the league in like 2 or 3 years. So
yeah, if I didn't watch that documentary, I probably wouldn't know who he was. So
Well, yeah, he's kind of a trivia question unless you're from Indiana or you went to IU in that era. So, yeah, Steve Alford, which I mean, you know that, these people, you can't listen to the fans, right? The fans are idiots. The fans have what to do.
Yep. So it was yeah, it was funny that didn't happen, but yeah, Reggie ended up made it work for him. So like around like like maybe like 1998 when Larry Bird came in as the coach and they had Chris Mullin for a minute.
Yeah. Well, the running joke, I mean, obviously with Reggie was that his sister was better than him. I mean, she scored
Absolutely, yeah.
100 points in a high school game. So
yeah, probably still is. Yeah, go ahead.
USC. I wish we had modern cameras so we could see. She played in an NBA training camp.
Yeah, she was that good, and everybody. I remember that when the Knicks played the Pacers, everybody would yell Cheryl. Right? That's the foul line. So yeah, and Cheryl was From what we heard, what we saw, it's like Will Chamberlain scoring 100 points.
Not quite that because it was high school, but
high school true.
That scores 100 points becomes legend. I mean, I think DeJuan Wagner scored in high school.
Yeah, I think there's clips of that, but
but there's no tape of her doing it, so it's just kind of like. But I would love to see the tape of her in training camp with the guys just to see what that comparison is.
Yeah. So, do you remember the one when they went to the finals with the Bulls in '98? You remember that one, right?
Yeah. That was didn't he choke? He wound up choking physically. Michael Jordan choked him, right?
Yeah, they were good. Yeah,
Well, that was the thing. He was pesky. So, like, again, he wasn't muscular. He wasn't cool. He didn't have some cool haircut. His hair wasn't spray painted, So, and then even the way he played was kind of a bitch-ass way of playing, He just he'd run off these screens all day until you were tired or confused. And
exactly.
And then if you gave him like a second of daylight, he'd take the three. I mean,
yeah.
What can you say? I mean, that's not the way you draw it up necessarily. Like,
but he was so good at doing it. Probably the best at doing it.
He was clutch. I mean, God bless Ray Allen until Ray Allen came along. Because Ray Allen has perfect form. Reggie always had that weird, almost.
It's very weird.
Shot.
It's extremely weird, but it was effective. So I remember at '98 they lost to the Bulls. '99 is the big year they made it to the final with the Knicks. They played the Knicks. They lost that one. Larry Johnson's legendary 4-point play. Do you remember watching that one?
So much. Oh man, his foot was on the line. I don't care what anybody says. He was out of bounds, man.
Yeah, and then the foul. Antonio Davis got called for the foul.
It all brings back bad memories. Which the Eastern Conference has always been like a rite of passage, right? Michael had to earn it. He had to get past the Celtics. Then he had to get past the Pistons. So for us, it felt like a natural progression,
Yeah.
We got beat the year before by, I mentioned the Orlando loss already.
Yeah.
And then they went on to the finals to get smacked by the Rockets. We played the Knicks or the Bulls that year. Jordan, and we lost. Jordan retires the next year. So it's like, all right.
Yeah.
And here comes the fucking Knicks, which you guys were fucking AC.
Got out of there. There was a
Houston comes off the screen or off the pick with that fucking random floater.
Yeah.
It bounces around the rim like 4 times before it drops. And I mean, that year, we pretty much were thinking, all right, we're going to have to play Miami. They were the 1 seed, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yep, they were, absolutely.
Tim Hardaway, Dan Marley.
Yep.
Alonzo. It's Anthony Mason, which the old Nick, of course, shows up in Miami. That's where people go to.
That's way after. That's kind of after, yeah. But
So we were pretty much planning to play you guys or to play Miami. And then was that a game 5?
The Knicks Pacers went to 6.
Right, but where
The
LA
Miami, oh yeah, that was that's when the series was first round was best of 5, and that was game 5.
Man,
Yeah.
fucking Allen Houston hits that floater. You guys were the team of destiny. You get Sprewell at what, the trade deadline? His coach.
Yeah.
Sprewell. You know, where do you go after you choke your fucking coach, right? That's where you go.
That's where you go. And then hang out.
Any grudges here?
And then hang out late with rappers.
You can't really choke your coach and come to the Midwest, you know?
Yeah.
It's like he's averaging how many points? We need him to be averaging 30 to be able to choke his coach and come to the Midwest. It's like you don't choke your coach and come to the Bible Belt. That's not
And it's funny because that when Sprewell, like that team in '99, actually that Houston shot long run, that might have been the death of us because we haven't been really good since. It's been really rocky.
A player that chokes his coach. That's the thing.
You got to get a man of trouble. So
it's a man looking to redeem himself. That's the only way the Knicks will ever be good again.
Yeah.
Well, Carmelo, but you guys don't like to talk about Carmelo.
A lot of. I hate Melo, but like it was what it was. I mean, his run was it was rocky from every point. So it was what it was.
Best record in 50 years. I mean, that's got to count for something. And I was there I think my second year living in New York City was when Carmelo's there, they get the best record in 50 years, and in the second round, the Pacers and the Knicks.
Yeah, that was a good. Yeah, I'm gonna get to that one later.
That was a great series.
It was, but not for me. But
not for you.
Yeah, but 2000, they finally make it to the finals. They get past the Knicks that year, Eastern Conference Finals, and then they play the Lakers, Shaq, Kobe. That was talk about, like, you remember that, how you were in Indy at the time, right?
It's like, all right, we finally got, after the year before in LJ, the whole 4-point play, we kind of stand pat and we come back with the same team, but Jalen Rose, which actually was my favorite Pacer growing up, Jalen Rose.
Oh, Jalen's right, yeah.
Yeah. He steps up and he's the sixth man of the year. And I mean, he's averaging like 19 for us. He's having a breakout year. He wins the sixth man trophy. And, he kind of takes the starting role from Chris Mullin, because Chris Mullin the year before was the starter.
Yeah.
And Jalen was coming off the bench, which oddly enough, they're both left-handed. They're kind of similar in demeanor,
Yeah. And Jalen Rose was compared to Magic, just a tall point guard in Michigan with, Weber and Jamal Howard. And then he comes to the league. I was like, all right, let's see what Jalen has, Yeah, I mean, he started in Denver and then got traded to the Pacers, yeah.
They said he didn't have the foot speed to play point guard, which I'll never forgive Isaiah Thomas, because he wins that sixth man of the year and he gets this big new contract. We go to the NBA Finals. We lose. Come back the next year, and Isaiah's the coach. And
Bird leaves.
He promises him, you're going to play point guard just like you did in college. And then halfway into the year, he trades Jalen for Ron Artest, Brad Miller.
Yeah, that's the year. Yeah, that's the year after. But they also... Yeah, who does nothing.
Which, mind you, that wound up being a better trade for us, because Jalen goes on to Toronto to get 81 points scored on him by Kobe.
Yeah. Legendary stuff.
Which, coincidentally, when they build Kobe's statue, Jalen Rose might be the defender, the guy going like this.
Getting dunked on and just Jimmy all day.
Yeah, most of those statues are two people. There's the guy scoring and the guy getting scored on. So, I mean, you got to take it how it comes, right?
Yep. Well, the year before that, they made a good trade. They traded Dale Davis from to Portland for Jermaine O'Neal, who ends up becoming a great player
They do that
for the
right
Pacers.
after the NBA Finals, which I thought was a bold move because everybody in Indiana was like, wait, what? Dale Davis was an all-star that year. Averaging, and now mind you, that's when they picked them by position, not this new crap they do where there's like 19 guards in the all-star.
Yeah, there's no positions anymore now.
So yeah, Dale Davis was averaging, I think, maybe 9 points per game and 11 rebounds.
Yeah, he had a double.
Yeah, hard-working, hard-hat type motherfucker. And I mean, mind you, they were all good for the city because that's important to Midwest, as I just said, Bible Belt states. You got to be a part of the community. You got to be married. All of that to get the long-term contract. Whereas, in New York, all you got to do is kick ass on the court, and you can be like J.R. Smith. You can hang out with Rihanna all night. There can be a whole photo club, and then as long as you show up on time the next day, or not so on time, who really gives a fuck, right?
Yeah.
But Dale Davis, that was a great trade because Jermaine O'Neal wound up finishing fourth in MVP voting like 5 years later for us. The franchise,
I remember he came out of high school too.
Yeah, he came out of high school, but he got great training. I mean, he played under Rasheed Wallace,
Scottie Pippen,
all-star.
Scottie Pippen.
Brian Grant was an all-star for them as well. And I mean, at his position in particular, Rasheed Wallace, like you just said, Brian Grant, Scottie Pippen. So, I mean, you're going to learn a whole bunch of shit. Steve Smith was with that team, I think.
That was a great team. Yeah. Stoudemire, Sabonis.
Stoudemire. So, I mean, he learned from a bunch of vets. And, I mean, when he first got to us, he was giving us what Dale Davis was giving us. I mean, he was giving us about 8 points a game with about 12 rebounds and like 4 blocks. And you're like, oh, this guy, well, I shouldn't say 4 blocks, 2.5 or so. But you're like, oh, this guy is better defensively, and he showed some flashes of an offensive game.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, that was the first year. And I mean, after the finals. And then the next year, I mean, he just blossomed. He's averaging like 16 points and about the same rebounds and blocks. And then the next year, he ups it again. And you're like, oh, shit, we got a great deal for an all-star that was kind of on his way down after that.
Absolutely. So now you, like you said, the trade for Artest, and Brad Miller comes too. So now you got Jermaine O'Neal, Ron Artest, Brad Miller, and just and then that year Larry Bird comes back as president and fires Isaiah Thomas.
There was a lot of drama going on there.
Something about Isaiah Thomas where everybody just can't.
And again, just like with Steve Alford, he's an IU legend, so he's got that cachet in Indiana, So we were looking at it like, well, this guy, and then like I told you, Jalen Rose, that we gave a big contract right after the NBA Finals and getting smacked by the Lakers. He trades him after promising him he can play point guard, which, mind you, Jalen Rose grew up in Detroit, and Isaiah Thomas was his childhood idol.
Yeah.
And I knew then, I was like, this Isaiah Thomas guy is different, man.
Yeah.
Fuck, I mean, when you can trade someone that tells you, hey, man, I had your poster on my wall as a kid.
So, yeah.
Oh, this guy doesn't give a shit about anybody. And I remember when Isaiah got fired as a coach, Jermaine O'Neal had signed. He was a free agent the summer before. And it came down to us in San Antonio and him going to play with Tim Duncan because David Robinson just retired.
Jermaine
O'Neal flat out said it. He said, if I knew Isaiah wasn't going to be the coach, I would have went to
Spurs, yeah. And then he would have eventually won there.
Twin Towers, the second version.
Yeah, and they would have definitely won there. So
they would have kicked ass.
Yeah. So 2000.
Once Jermaine O'Neal got hurt playing out of position, playing center instead of power forward, and he made the mistake of going out there. There were rounds I think where we we were like a 7 seed and someone else was like a 4 or 3 or whatever, and we didn't have a chance in the world to win, and he'd go out there and play with a big ice pack on his knee, and it's like, dude, I think Barkley said it best, where it's like, you know, this time of the year everybody's hurt, but if you're injured, that's another thing. And like, it occurs to me now, like, Jermaine O'Neal, I ain't gonna say he ruined his career because he went on to play a bunch of years after that, but not at the same level. If he
absolutely not.
He had to just sat out.
Yeah. That 2004 season, it's like you had O'Neal, Artest went to the All-Star game. They won 61 games.
Oh, man.
You know, best in the league, best in the NBA. So that team is like, all right, Artest is defensive player in the year. And then they lose to who would be the champions that year, the Pistons in 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals.
And not just lose. I remember that. I think that was my junior year in high school. And we were all so sad because Reggie took it up at the very end. But of course, he's going to lay it off the glass. And I think Tayshaun Prince, who was a rookie at the time, just fucking cleans it off the glass. That's it, you know. All Reggie had to do was dunk it. And we were all so mad. We're like, all he had to do was fucking 2 hands like a fucking man. He's 6'7" or whatever. And he's gangly. Just dunk it, dude.
Yeah.
Oh,
Similar to Ewing Ewing with that finger roll in '95. I know that's before your time, but
so you know how just like, dude, all you gotta do is just
bring it down with the
7 foot, just bring it down, man. One more time.
Yeah, so that team, like the Pistons ended up winning, they beat the shit out of the Lakers that year. And
that was the year they ran out of gas.
Yeah, the Lakers, because they had the Hall of Fame team with Malone and Payton.
Yeah, they added Malone and Payton, and then they were old, and it was just like the Pistons just wanted it more. They showed up, and they were out of gas, the Lakers, which I think people forget about that sometimes in basketball, where it's like, yo, we're just the fuck out of gas. Miami Heat that year, what did they run off? I think 4 or 5. Like they went to 4 or 5 finals, right?
When
They played Dallas. They lost the first one. They played OKC.
OKC. Yeah, that dynasty. Yeah, they struggled, but they won.
Spurs the first
again,
year, and Ray Allen kind of saved their life.
Yeah.
And the next year, I mean, that might have been one of the worst ass whoopings I've ever seen. The Spurs just military dismantled them, and they just looked out of gas. And then even if you think about Golden State against Toronto, where it's like, if I told somebody early in the year that the Toronto Raptors win the chip, you'd be like,
oh, absolutely, yeah. Yep, you'd be like, what? Yeah.
But it was like a movie, you know. In the first round, I think who gets hurt? KD.
Yeah.
And then Clay hurts himself in the second
round.
It
was just all the dominoes fell. Cousins was hurt.
Hurt himself. You know, and it was just like, every round somebody else got hurt. It was almost like watching a movie. But people underestimate the fact that you can run out of gas. And the Lakers, with the exception of that Kobe Bryant shot, they just ran the fuck out of gas.
So so that Pistons is disappointing because they came up short. But 2005, they're like, all right, we're gonna win it. This is the team. They traded Al Harrington for Steven Jackson.
Oh, man.
So Steven Jackson comes in.
Like it was yesterday, man.
Then they start at 7-2.
And we've got this lineup that top to bottom, I mean, we've got Jamal Tinsley. He never played a high school game, right?
Yeah.
He was a rookie with.
He was a Brooklyn guy, Brooklyn guy, yeah.
And Michael Jordan, Thanksgiving Day, he gives Michael Jordan's Wizards, it's Michael Jordan's big, fucking Michael Jordan's on the Wizards.
He's back, yeah.
Holiday, and fucking Jamal Tinsley as a rookie gives him 21 assists on Thanksgiving Day.
Yep.
So, I mean, this guy was great. And, you're a New Yorker, man. New York point guards are different, man.
Definitely different, yeah.
I saw this guy at Iowa State cross a guy over backward, and I was like, oh, this is great.
So it's
I had a crush on New York City point guards growing up, I'll tell you that.
No,
So
absolutely, yeah. New York's the Mecca, yeah.
play
Marbury, yeah,
their own style. Lance Stevenson's kind of the last. I know he's not thought of as a point guard, but
yeah,
watch him handle the ball, and you'll be like, oh yeah, he's fucking
yeah.
and one all day. So
Uh-huh.
Austin, Omar Cook that barely played.
Oh my God, Omar Cook, yeah, St. John's, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
came out
He's
just a little too early.
too early, yeah. He got ahead of himself, and I guess take the money, but it just didn't work out for him.
Yeah, it just didn't work out, but whatever. He's doing better than me, He
Yeah,
got paid some millions for a few years, so you can't
yeah,
cry.
yep.
But yeah, love New York City point guard. So we got Jamal Tinsley. He's, the quintessential pass first point guard. We got Reggie Miller, the old wily veteran.
Yep.
Ron Artest, the defensive guy, defensive player of the year, I think the year before that.
Yep. That's yep.
Like you said, we just came within inches of going to the finals. We got Jermaine O'Neal, the all-world power forward, scoring machine. Brad Miller, who was an all-star,
Yeah, at the time, yeah.
They got rid of that center position all-star because, he was out there averaging a mean 11 points per game.
Yeah.
So he was one of the original stretch five,
Yeah, he was definitely good. Like he came out of nowhere too.
Sinking those 15-footers or whatever,
Yeah.
And he was from Indiana. He was from Fort Wayne, so it was like.
Oh, okay, so he had ties with the connection. Yeah. So that was a good pickup.
Back home, and like I said, I hated Isaiah Thomas for making that trade for Jalen Rose. That was my favorite Pacer. But what we got back in return, I mean, 2 All-Stars.
Yep.
And Brad Miller, and
yep.
It really helped fill out our roster. And then, like I said, the genius of them to get rid of Dale Davis, who was an all-star, right after going to the NBA Finals. We were all scratching our heads on that. And the guy that I failed to mention, Jermaine O'Neal got great training under, was Rasheed Wallace and Zach Randolph.
Yeah, Zach Randolph too. He was another guy, and he was young too. Yep.
We got a battle: Rasheed Wallace, Brian Grant, Zach Randolph, Bonzi Wells, and Scotty practice every day. And Sabonis, don't forget fucking
Sabonis. Oh yeah, Sabonis is great too. Yeah. So
we got his son now in Indiana. His son's tremendous, man. Fucking double machine.
Played in the All-Star game for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, those rebounding power forwards don't do well in All-Star games.
Yeah. So let me get to 2005. Start off 7-2, and then the infamous, probably the most legendary, in-game brawl in any sport.
This side of Kermit, Washington. I mean, I was at home watching that game, and it was billed as a big matchup, and we had the lead, and we're up. It's the 4th quarter. And Ron Artest, it's getting chippy. Him and Ben Wallace. Ron Artest goes and sits on the scores table. Good. This game is over. Ron's not going to do anything crazy. Because before that, I think he played the Knicks in the playoffs. I think he broke the TVs or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Ron Artest was trying to work for Circuit City with his cousin. That's another story.
Yeah. Did you watch Ron Artest's documentary?
No.
Oh, if you get a chance, see that's a good one too.
It's got to be great. But anyway, so Ron had the reputation as a hothead already. So he's sitting on the scores table, and you're thinking, all right, this is all going to work itself out. We're not even 10 games in. All we got to do is stay healthy, and we were preseason number 1 pick. So preseason number 1 everything, top to bottom. We had a great roster. And then the Gatorade Cup just comes flying down like from out of the heavens. It hits Ron just enough. And you see Ron come up off the scores table. And the rest is history, man. He just starts attacking people in the stands. If that wasn't bad enough, here comes Steven Jackson to save him.
Oh, my God. I've never seen so many haymakers just walloping people.
People in the stands. I think one of them had on a Pacers jersey. And
he didn't care.
We still got to punch you. We don't know where that cup came from.
Yeah.
Jermaine O'Neal was when I was like, oh, come on, dude. We want to have a chance to at least make the playoffs here. Jermaine
Mm-hmm.
O'Neal goes over and tries to punch one of the guys in the stands, and it's just like, oh fuck.
If I remember, there was a guy that heavy set guy in a Piston jersey got on the court, and Jermaine slides and just.
Yeah, that sliding punch he did. Because Jermaine O'Neal, for all intents and purposes, he's 7 foot to everybody's regular size. So he had to aim down so much that he
Oh my
completely
God.
misses the punch.
Oh my God, it was just insane. And then the chair start the like the it's a basketball team versus a crowd of maybe at the time 5,000-6,000
I was
people.
half asleep, and I thought I was dreaming. And I remember
Yeah.
going back to sleep, waking up the next day, turning on SportsCenter, and going, "Oh fuck!" Like I was not sleeping. This was real. And then them and the pending suspicions or the suspensions, pending, and just being like, "What the fuck is our team even gonna look like after this?"
Yeah, that's where it gets
They
tricky.
suspended everybody. Jermaine
Artest
O'Neal,
out for the
Artest,
season.
Steven Jackson, the mascots, the people who bought their cars, the motherfucker that was selling peanuts got suspended. Which sucked because mostly nothing happened to Detroit.
Yeah. Well, what was Reggie in all this? That was one of the mysteries.
He was busy being an old man, so he had
Yeah.
nothing to do with any of it. So we got to keep Reggie. Then we get Anthony Johnson, who I think was our backup, which is a solid backup. He actually winds up averaging like 17 points that year and 6 assists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he comes on and
star.
yeah.
And Fred Jones, that was I think a rookie for us,
Yeah,
or maybe a
remember Fred Jones.
second-year player. He steps the fuck up, and I mean he comes and really brings it. And he was I think a dunk champ at the time, and that was kind of all he saw as a dunker. And I mean he really rounded out his game that year and played hard for us. James Jones, that becomes LeBron's
co-worker. Yeah, follows him. Has like 8 straight finals appearances. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets a nice contract from Phoenix after playing with us because he has to step up. He was like a 14th man, and then he became like a starter because all these guys got suspended. And Ron Artest, I think, got suspended for the year. And like I was saying, PR plays a big part in a lot of this, where Ron Artest was leaving the Pacers Arena, so Conseco Fieldhouse at the time. Mm-hmm. And they were asking him about the suspension, and this fool holds up a mixtape and goes, whatever, my mixtape, Q Warrior Volume 6 is out. And from there it was over. People were like, yo, I don't give a fuck. Get him out of here.
Artest is like, yeah, if you watch that doc, it shows everything. And now Artest is good friends with the guy that threw the cup at him.
Wow. Well, that Artest, Meta World Peace.
Meta World Peace, yeah. Yeah, so they're best friends with the cup throwing guy. He reaches out and if you get a chance to see that doc, it's hilarious.
Oh, I'm gonna check it out because, like I said, Meta World Peace would have never beat up those people in the stands. If only life was so easy, right? You just change your name.
Yeah.
Which is funny. Sprewell never changed his name after he chose that coach. He just whatever. He came to the Midwest. We got Artest the fuck out of there after that, and I mean, that was a generational shift almost because
that 2005 year they ended up getting to the playoffs, so they were good enough, even though you don't have the
Yes, we wound up playing the Nets. I think
they beat Boston in 7. They were the 6th seed. Boston was the seed. Yeah, they beat Boston in 7, and then they play Detroit. So it's all.
I gotta look that up. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought that was the year that we had Anthony Johnson and we played the Nets.
No, you're right. You're right about that. But they played Boston and they lost in 7 to Boston. I mean, they beat Boston and they beat Boston in the first round. Second round, they lose to Detroit.
Okay, which is just what is this even? Did we have our
Yeah.
players back? I don't
No,
think we had.
well, not our text. You had Jermaine, Steven Jackson, I think had 25 games. Jermaine O'Neal had 30 something games. So
And then
everybody's
Artest
back,
got
but our
injured.
text. Yeah, our text. Everybody's back, but our text.
Got
And yeah, so that season, yeah, and that's also Reggie Miller's final season.
right. Because there were rumors of him going to Boston at the time.
Yeah,
And it
but
was
that
shut
was yeah, he
down.
retired.
And that was part of it. But what sucks so much was he didn't get that really have his farewell tour or even a grand send off because it was just like, us trying to pick up the pieces basically
Yeah.
from, but Q Warrior Volume 6 is out. And they shipped Ron Artest ass to Siberia at the time.
In Sacramento.
Sacramento.
Well, it's funny. Reggie Miller, that final year, I remember he came. I was at the game for his final game at the Garden, and they had a thing for him. They had a little tribute for him, which I personally didn't like.
Guys gave him like a Bentley or something or a Phantom. I remember.
Yeah, I hated that because I hated, but the fans gave him a standing O because I was like, all right, you can't bother us anymore. Get the hell out of here.
One of the greatest clutch performers of all time. I mean, it is what it is.
So that's the end of that era and the new era. They even changed the uniforms. They Danny Granger comes in.
I love Danny. Danny gets forgotten about between Reggie, Jermaine O'Neal, and then Paul George that people bring up. Danny gets forgotten about. He was, I think, a two-time All-Star.
Yeah, because he was a lower pick. He was a 17th pick. So, I'm pretty sure you didn't know. That year, you lost to the Nets in the first round.
Okay, yeah.
In 6 years, in 6 games, yeah. So that year was the year where they lost to the Nets, and then the following year they missed the playoffs completely. They fire Rick Carlisle, so Jim O'Brien comes in.
Bad move, horrible move. I hated Jim O'Brien.
Right.
Larry Bird had to come and say. He said, I love him, but actually not Larry Bird. It was the owner, so it was Donnie Walsh, or not Donnie Walsh, but maybe Herb Simon. One of them, the owner or the president, had to come down and say, "Hey, I know Jim O'Brien was your teammate, Larry Bird, back in Boston, but I don't give a fuck. You're gonna fire him, or I'm firing both of you."
Yeah.
Fire Jim O'Brien. So, to the point I was making earlier about cultural shifts, Jermaine O'Neal basically was a big Allen Iverson. He had cornrows. He wore baggy tees. He had a club at the time. He was trying to start a rap label. So the city wanted to clean up the image, of the team after the brawl. So the first step was they shipped off what's his face?
Shipped off Artest.
Then Steven Jackson, they get rid of him too. They trade Steven Jackson and Al Harrington to Golden State for
no. Before Warriors, I know Warriors they traded for each other. So
and we got
then he goes back
the next year.
Yeah, because I remember Steven Jackson.
He plays pretty well. He
had
point game. He really was. Hurricane Harrington's kind of underrated in a weird way.
We had him. Mitch had him for a bit. Yeah.
He comes back to Indy, signs a nice deal. Him, Steven Jackson go out to a club with Jamal Tinsley, and you can actually look this up. It's on Matt Barnes' podcast. Him and Steven Jackson. What is it called?
Okay. All the smoke. Yep.
All the smoke. Yeah, look it up because they tell the actual story, but. From our side, all we got was, they got in a fight at a club that I wouldn't have been caught dead at. They got followed home. We used to go, but it was a bad club. You knew, like, when I go to, what was it called? Trimmers. When I go to Trimmers, I got to have at least 10 dudes with me. Anything might happen. So it's like, why are 3 millionaire NBA players on the west side of Indianapolis at the worst club in the city? Jamal Tinsley, Steven Jackson, and Al Harrington all get followed with like an AK that's shooting at them. It's like,
wow.
following them home on a public street. So Jamal Tinsley, they paid him all his money and tell him, stay the fuck home. I don't know what was going on. Steven Jackson and Al Harrington, they trade them for Mike Dunleavy and Troy Murphy.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that trade. And then the Warriors, the AC beat Dallas that foul. Yep.
AC beats
the Mavericks.
Dallas Mavericks that were the 1 seed that year with fucking Baron Davis and that demoralizing dunk.
Yeah.
On Dirk Nowitzki. And I mean, yeah, they were just so solid. And I mean, both of them were dogs. I mean, they did what they were told to do, basically, you know. Neither one of them really needed the ball, but they locked in on defense. And I mean, we took Troy Murphy and Mike Dunleavy, and yeah, we never had another incident at a strip club or people getting shot at, but neither one of them could stay healthy.
Yeah.
So every year it'd be like, well, as soon as we get Mike Dunleavy back, and it's like, even when you fucking get him back, he's going to average 10 points per game. He's going to space the floor every now and then. He'll make a decent pass, but it's not like you're getting fucking LeBron back, man. Let's stop. Let's cut the shit.
Dunleavy was one of those, like, I know he had one decent year or one good year. He was like, they might have gave him the most improved. I think he was like, they voted him like,
I don't know. I don't think he ever quite wins that.
He didn't win it, but he was a candidate for it.
That's true. He was a good kind of all-around Swiss Army knife kind of player, like Nicholas Batum in a way, or we don't want to say Scottie Pippen because that's way too much credit.
Oh yeah, no.
Like a very low-rate Detlef Schrempf, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Bigger than everybody. He could space the floor. He could handle a little. He could pass a little. But he was soft. And he'd always be hurt, if not that. And then every year, Jim O'Brien would be like, well, as soon as we get Mike Dunleavy back, this thing will be awesome. And we never got him. He would come play 10 games. And even when he played, like I said, you know, you're averaging 8 points per game. You're not really stopping anybody. So we were getting our asses kicked. Luckily, Danny Granger, like you said, was the, I think, 13th pick or so.
17th, yeah.
17th pick out of New Mexico State, of all places. And he kind of starts in the same way that Paul George starts, you know. He's on the bench, barely filling in spot duty. And by the end of it, I mean, he's an all-star. He's a great clutch player. He's sinking threes, and he's a really good defender. And Troy Murphy, that also came with Mike Dunleavy, same kind of thing. He would be hurt off and on a lot, but he averaged a double-double when he played. But it's one of those things of, but the person you're playing against is also getting a double-double. So this is kind of canceling itself out, you know. You're shooting threes or whatever as a power forward. Who really needs that?
I know we probably forgot to mention one guy, like in those late 90s, early 2000s, a guy that was big. They were Austin Crozier.
Oh, man, don't get me started. Same thing I'm telling you about Dunleavy.
That's what I thought of when you talked about Dunleavy.
This one hot summer that we got to the finals when he wasn't on the scouting report. And then as soon as people put him on the scouting report the next year and he got this big max contract, it was like, well, that's the end of that. You know, you're a big white guy that can space the floor, which, I mean, that's all you need to get a max contract in the Midwest. Big white guy that can shoot it. I mean, everybody's seen Hoosiers. So that's their dream. It's like, oh, this would have been, he'd have been a star at Hickory, but, you know, you got people, big mobile forwards like Lamar Odom and all these different new players coming around, and they're covering the kind of ground that they're covering. It's like, that's not really that revolutionary if you can't get your shot off, and he couldn't. So, we just paid money for a long time, and we haven't even mentioned baby Al Harrington, but we were the baby Pacers at one point because we also had drafted Jonathan Benson.
Yeah, I remember that big trade when they traded Antonio Davis for Jonathan Bender, and everybody was upset about that.
Couldn't keep that knee healthy. He broke Michael Jordan's scoring record in the McDonald's All-Star game, I think. Michael Jordan. And I mean, Jordan had held that record for like 18 years, so It was a
Mm-hmm.
big deal. I think
Yeah.
Jordan, I think he scored 31 and Bender scored 33. So, and
Yeah.
just like I was telling somebody, everybody wants the NBA players to come right out of high school. And I'm like, no, like think of all the guys that didn't quite, because all of them, have these catastrophic injuries. And after 3 or 4 years, they come back to, be somewhat solid and somewhat productive. But you say to
Yeah.
yourself, Irving only played 11 games at Duke. And
Yep.
then in the first 2 or 3 years at the Cavs, he only plays like 40 games a year. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Yeah.
maybe just leaving him in college, even Julius Randle that I think about, opening day,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
19 years old, 1 year at
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky.
Tucky, yep.
Opening day of the Lakers season just completely blows his ACL.
Destroys, yeah. Destroys it.
And it's like, I
So,
don't know. I think if you keep them at that 32 game schedule, and that's only if you make the final four or so, and if you're a really good team, do you even play 30 games? But people forget the NBA is not just 82 games, it's practices. And
yep.
not just that you're practicing against grown ass men. So
Big, big guys, big solid people that you got to
it makes a
ran your
big
body to.
difference. So yeah, Jonathan Bender, his knees never really could quite handle the pressure. He could play when he could play, and I mean, he was what Kevin Durant is, or was
Yeah.
supposed to be that.
Knicks had him too for a hot minute. Didn't pan out.
You know what's crazy enough is his last contract. I think the year that they had the lockout, which was like 2010, maybe 2011, when they started on Christmas Day. Donnie Walsh was working for the Knicks.
Knicks, yeah. Uh-huh.
On Christmas Day, and I was happy to see him out there. I think Donnie Walsh gave him like a 10-day contract.
Yeah. But it wasn't the same.
Made a lot of money. I just wish, like I said, maybe he spent a year or two, and back then they didn't have the development league.
Now there's a loophole like LaMelo Ball. He just went overseas after
Right.
high school and just like that's the loophole. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to go to college,
And then,
go
maybe
overseas. Yeah,
Stern goes on to stop that because, like I said, I think, those bodies just are going to break down, man. You can't.
yeah,
82 plus the travel, plus the practices, plus you playing grown ass men. So, somebody like Julius Randle that is just like, what the hell is even going on? And his knees just overload. Luckily, he's come back to be productive because he was so
yeah.
good.
A lot of high school. Darius Miles didn't
Yeah.
pan out. He had a bad injury, and that with him.
But I mean, they
So
got paid. They're mansions telling their stories of,
yeah.
and I'm
So
here in an apartment. So
yeah. So I'm gonna fast forward because they don't make the playoffs. Like 2010, they end up drafting Paul George at the 10th pick. So
yeah,
now you don't know. It's kind of like you said, like Danny Granger. Like you
yeah.
don't know what you're gonna get, but he ends up being
Swiss
really
Army
really
knife
good.
kind of player, Fresno State.
Hmm.
Jim O'Brien. So Jim O'Brien, they come downstairs and they tell him, "Hey, we get that you guys are old Celtic buddies, but either I'm firing you or I'm firing both of you." Larry Bird fires him the next day. Paul George comes from the bench to the starting lineup,
Hmm.
and we go on to win like a good, I'll say 13 of our last, 20. And we make the
Hmm.
playoffs as an 8 seed. Paul
Yeah, with
George.
Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel's now the
Frank
head
Vogel
coach.
takes over as coach, and he believes in Paul George. He puts him in the starting lineup, and we have to play Derrick Rose as MVP here.
Oh man.
And yeah, Paul George is assigned to him, and I mean, mind you, you can't really do a whole lot with that guy, but he did the best job with him. And then we kind of hand the keys over to Paul George, and Frank Vogel also installs Lance Stevenson in the starting lineup the next year. And I mean, boom,
Yeah.
right back to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah, because that year.
goddamn home.
Yeah, so that year you that offseason good because you get David West, which is big, and then also you get George Hill. And I know you had a story about George Hill. I remember you telling me about.
Yeah, real short story. I was at Ben Davis High School. That's on the west side of Indianapolis. They have like this big sprawling court or whatever. That's like 10 courts or whatever going each way. So summertime, everybody's just kind of out there running. I'm out there running, and mind you, I'm only 5'5". So when I'm playing, all the kids or whatever or teenagers will feel like I'm their competition. So they're like sizing themselves up against me, and I'm like, hey, I'm old. I'm just out here to stay in shape. Like, I'm not really trying to prove any points here. So there's this one kid, and I mean, he's trying extra hard to prove his point against me. And I'm just like, hey, man, I'll kick your ass. We can play one-on-one after this. So we go over to the side court or whatever. I'm kicking his ass. Now, as I'm kicking his ass, I'm talking shit to the whole crowd. Like, who else wants some? And I'm saying this. I'm like, who else wants some? And out of the crowd comes, this tall dude, light skinned or whatever. And I mean, he looks like he's in shape, but who am I? I was talking shit, right? Who else wants some? This is who else wants some. So now I wind up playing him, He lets me have the ball first. I hit him with one of my good moves, He blocks it, man. And I mean, he's not just blocking it. He's sending it to the other side of the court, like, embarrassingly, like. So then I get it back. I hit him with two of my best moves, and I'm thinking, all right, this is going to move him. Nothing. He swats it to the other side. I get it back the third time. I give him like three of my best moves, plus like 2 or 3 fakes. Nothing. He swats it to the other side. Finally, I go, hey, man, cut the shit. Who do you play for? I asked him who he plays for. He holds out his arm, and right on his arm, he's got like a basketball, and it says G Hill. And
oh, man.
I'm George Hill, by the way. And that was the summer that he got drafted by the Spurs. So it was like, oh, well, this game is over. And I think the next play, I took the ball and like threw it over my shoulder backwards, and it went in, and it was like, I quit. So 1 point on George Hill.
Wow, you could, that'll go down. Tell your kids about it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny now because like I'll see him playing on TV and they'll be like, he's stingy on defense. He's not giving up. I got 1 point on him. 1.
So that season they get all these guys and they go all the way to the five. They lose to Miami in 6 games. So that's like
yeah, we got Roy Hibbert, which everyone always skips over. Big Roy out of Georgetown. He was supposed to carry on the legacy, right? Of
him and Greg Oden.
We're not going to talk about that. In a sore spot. Greg Oden, man, and what could have been, He should have been a Pacer.
Yeah.
We'd have fed him good, that Indiana corn. We'd have taken care of it. So, another case of what if, you stayed at the pace of 30 games and not the fucking NBA practices, 82 plus flights, plus fucking practices, and banging with grown-ass men. It's different. And your body's still growing when you're that young, So,
yeah, it's a shame. So the following year, 2013, you win the division, and then they go on the playoffs. They beat Atlanta the first round. Then they beat the Knicks. I remember that year because the Knicks won their division as well, and that was a good team with Kidd and Melo and Stoudemire, Chandler. Yeah.
Wallace. Yeah.
They
good team. Defensive Chandler. And I was living here, so I was really feeling the spirit of, you guys' best record in 50 years. We were a lower seed than you guys.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I was like, oh my God, Pacers caught fire. And then they had, Tyler Hansbrough too?
Oh, Psycho T. Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's a running joke of a friend of mine. Is that Indiana, if they can take a white guy, they will take him. It doesn't matter where.
That's what I say. He's in the same mold. Like, he was like North Carolina. He was the best. Like, same mold of Austin Crozier and Troy Murphy.
Proves my whole theory of the college thing, but body-wise, he held up, but he just wasn't much in the NBA. Psycho T with those little arms,
Yeah.
They're working hard, though. But, I remember when we had that pick, and there were a lot of players that I wanted, and me and my man looked at each other and were like, he's taking Tyler Hansbrough.
Yeah.
Larry Bird
Yeah.
is taking a white guy if he can.
God, yeah.
Uh, there's one that people always forget, Sarunas Yesikevich, that they brought
Oh
over.
yeah, I remember him. Yep.
He was
He was a point
billing,
guard. Yep.
European Larry Bird, and he came over
Uh-huh.
and he wasn't shit.
Yeah, he played like a couple of games.
It was he played a few years for my Pacers.
Yeah.
They gave him nice money and everything, and yeah, he was barely a backup point guard, barely a backup shooting guard, some type of hybrid, but whatever. He was European and he was soft.
Yeah, didn't play a lot. So they went to Miami. Yeah, they go to Miami after they beat the Knicks. They go to Miami and then take them to 7 games.
Yeah, man, I was so happy for us that year. Like I said, Roy Hibbert was an all-star again, and he might have been the last center to be an all-star before they were like, hey, let's not do that anymore. Because, he was boring. He was a prototypical, like a robot center,
Yeah, absolutely. A traditional,
Which, by the way, I love that you try to skip past the fact that the Knicks were the higher seed. And the dope play from that summer was, and I remember being at a bar in the East Village and watching, and people finding out I was from Indiana and being like, fuck you. And I was like one of the only guys in the bar cheering for Indiana, but that one play that sums up that series is Carmelo trying to dunk and Roy Hibbert fucking
watch it. Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, you couldn't get nothing over Roy Hibbert. Yep.
Sending that back, and it's like, oh shit, we might actually beat them.
Yeah, and they did. And then, so
I think we got to the ECF.
Yeah, the next year after, I'm getting to the next year, best in the East that year. They rematch Miami again in the Eastern Conference Finals, and they lose in 6. That's when Lance Stevenson blows into LeBron's ear.
Yeah, Lance is like I told you, I love New York City playground players, so I love Lance and everything that he brought, and I guess that was some sort of weird psychological move. And he tried to go in LeBron's ear, and LeBron just kind of looked at him like, which that was weird anyway, because they were both like 2 high school phenoms. And I mean, Lance was LeBron.
Yeah.
And so you could tell he wasn't very intimidated by LeBron. And he did a good job playing him.
He tried. Yeah, he actually did. Yeah, it kind of got him some, if you didn't know him what he was about then, you definitely knew who he was after that. And it might have affected him because the Miami went on to lose to the Spurs. He caught cramps and all that stuff. Wasn't
Yeah. And, Lance and Paul George being physical on those wings, which I wish Lance was my favorite Pacer probably in the last 10 years. I wish Lance never left us for whatever that 0.4 or whatever million they were offering in Charlotte. I mean, Lance goes on to play for Charlotte, the Clippers, New Orleans.
Yeah, he bounced around. Yeah,
it's like sometimes
Lakers too.
But see, that's the thing, and that's kind of the thing that always dogged my team. It being a small market, that we don't have always the huge bucks, and even if we have the huge bucks, it's not LA. We don't have the entertainment industry. It's not New York. We don't have the media. It's not Miami. We don't have South Beach. So we don't attract a lot of free agents, and we also don't keep a lot of our, talent that we build up. They end up leaving us. But yeah, Lance was the last one, and I mean Paul George left too, but Lance really broke on her. It's like you and Paul George, and Lance was on the verge of being an all-star. I mean, he was really solid.
Didn't he go to one All-Star game, if I'm not mistaken?
Nah, he did.
All-Star game, but did he win an award that year? Maybe Most Improved or something? I know
he was in like the finalist of.
Yeah, I know he put up great numbers. Yeah,
he probably averaged like 14, like 6 and like 6 for us that year, and then he goes down there with Michael Jordan. All of a sudden, he's shooting rap videos, and it's just all downhill from there. He winds up playing for Doc Rivers, I think, going from the Charlotte to the Clippers, to New Orleans to Minnesota,
Lakers.
Then we bring him back, a year or 2 ago, and it was just like, what the hell, man? Why'd you ever leave?
Yeah. So that 2014, after that, the Olympics comes up, and they have a scrimmage game. And Paul George his leg just basically falls off during the dunk.
He's a small guy anyway. It's not like he's super strong or anything.
but he's very tall. Yeah.
So many miles on those legs, and I mean, he's made a great recovery. Couldn't have happened to a better dude, you know. Worse thing couldn't have happened to a better dude, you know.
I remember watching that dunk, and I guess remember this isn't the NBA, it's FIFA. So I think the backboard, I guess the stand of the backboard was a little bit closer, I guess, than usual.
Yeah.
And it was such a freak accident where you see him, he comes in and his legs basically just lob the hell off.
Yeah, man, a lot of mileage on those legs, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of speed and velocity behind them to where, you know, they can only take so much pounding before you got to give it a break. And I mean, like I said, I'm proud of how he came back, but yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, he missed that entire season, and then
yeah, I think we wound up missing the playoffs that year. I think we might have made it. I think we made
a couple of first rounders at the end, like a little couple of first rounders here and there, but it wasn't like there's no
we got our ass kicked
nothing significant to like, you know.
I think by Toronto that year, actually. I think Toronto. Norman Allen was a starter rookie, and he just was going off on us. And we're like, who the hell's that guy? And then DeMar and Kyle Lowry are doing what they do.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I think Norman Powell gets a big contract after that, and up until this year, he has yet to live it up. And then also for us, Solomon Hill was his replacement, Paul George.
Yeah.
He gets a huge contract from New Orleans, and now I was just playing on 2K with him, and I was like, oh shit, he's on that team now. He's in Miami now, and it's like, what the hell? I mean, you play 4 summers go by, and it's like that dude's still getting paid, all because someone got hurt. It's a little like comedy in that way of like
somebody
just, you know.
Yeah, definitely. So 2016, Frank Vogel gets fired. So so 2000 now Nate McMillan's the coach. And 2017, that's Paul George's final season in Indy. And then they traded the good trade where you get Oladipo.
Another one. It's taught
and Sabonis. Yeah,
it's taught me to be patient. Like I said, Jalen Rose was I love this game, left-handed, just smooth, and always took his time. And I was heartbroken when Isaiah sent him off, but I realized 3 years later, you got 2 All-Stars out of that deal, so 2 for 1. And I mean, who could even say they saw Victor Oladipo being what he was? My sister was in Orlando, IU, and she graduated from IU with him. So, you know, so again, the guy that has ties to the community, because you can't just send a black guy to Indiana without some type of resistance, even if there's millions of dollars. It's like, who do I know there? I know
and he has a strong like social media presence. He sings. He was on the Masked Singer.
You know, he doesn't hang out at Tremors with Steven Jackson. So
I think there's a video of him doing stand-up, if I'm not mistaken. Do you remember?
I hope not. We got enough of those.
No, Oladipo, I swear to God, look it up. I think that like he tries it one time, but everybody does. Yeah, everybody tries it one time.
I mean, you know, like I said, who saw him becoming what he is? I mean, he's basically Dwayne Wade light. I mean,
that's a perfect description of him. Even though last year he had that big injury, so he's kind of injury prone a bit too.
I would say injury prone necessarily. I think one injury. I mean, Paul George had one injury.
Yeah.
But you still can look
you know what I mean. Just a monster injury.
Years. But I mean, when you have a major injury, you know.
It
takes a while to come back. So I'm excited because he said he wasn't coming to the bubble, and now he's down in Orlando and he's playing well. So
so now we're at present time. The bubble thing's happening. I don't know if even the season, because baseball just canceled the game because everybody got sick. So I don't know what's going to go down with any of these sports now.
It's certainly weird climate for sports, and I mean definitely for
everything.
It's in live entertainment. So it's like, you know, play it by ear. We got to get back to doing what we do at some point. So play it by ear, check everybody's temperature, I guess. But Oladipo wound up being a great pick, and I mean, we got him and Sabonis. Sabonis was an all-star this year, you know, and Paul George left OKC, so
Yeah. So it's
Is.
working out.
Everybody thought Paul George was making his way to LA, and I mean he did, but like a year after, everybody expected it to the wrong team. So
Yeah.
you never know, and sometimes when your team makes a trade, you gotta be patient and just wait it out. I mean,
and the Clippers might be the favorite right now. To him and Kawhi there, they might be the favorite to win it. If whatever happens, if the season goes down as planned, we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, LeBron looks in mid-season form, which a lot of the players are sitting out down there. Like, watched Portland play. Dame Lillard wasn't playing. What other game did I watch and a big guy wasn't playing? Oh, Jimmy Butler. I watched Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Herro was taking the lead or whatever. And then it's funny because then I expect the same type of thing, and then I turn on the Lakers and LeBron's out there going full steam. Like playing 30 minutes a game, and it's like, damn, man, do you have any other speed? Like, where's the load management at, man?
There was a load management for the last 4 months,
Right. Which that's the funny thing about, this year's. Last year, all of us were making fun of load management.
Yeah.
We've all been managing our own loads,
Yeah.
So
it either worked or, I mean, like everybody, like people are either getting fat or they're working out because they're at home. So we don't know. So our players, it depends. I mean, it's like, oh, this is done. We're not going to come back and play. So some players probably,
and you can use it either way. You can be Lou Williams or whatever. You can go to a strip club. Which, by the way, it's just like a strip club.
Yeah, he ordered wings. He said they had the best wings in town. So
I mean, surely he could have got that to go. He could have just in the window. But strip clubs are typically like, you can't touch the girls, but now it's like the girls better not fucking touch me. Look, I'll tip you. Touch me.
I don't want any trouble.
I'm curious to see what the strip clubs are gonna look like after this, But Lou Williams will know.
Yeah, he'll know. He'll have one. All right, Phil. Thanks a lot for coming on with us, man. This has been dope. Anything you want to plug before you go, man?
Just find me on all social media at I am Phil Hunt. And check out my special on Venmo.
Hilarious, by the way.
Titled Philosophy at the Apollo Theater. So go to my website or find me on social media. Website is funnyphil.com.
All right. Thanks a lot, Phil. I appreciate it. And I hope to see you soon and everything will be back to normal, my brother.
Yeah, man. Good luck not making the playoffs, man.
We're already out, so we're good.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, my brother. Have a good one, man. All right. That was Phil Hunt. Fun show. Thanks for joining us. Like I said, follow Phil Hunt. His IG and Twitter's on the bottom on the ticker, and follow us at Root for Laundry, IG and Twitter. You can listen to this episode on Anchor, and you can watch it watch it if you didn't watch it on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Rooting for Laundry. I'm Johnny McDonald. Be safe, be well, and have a good one. Take care.